Yo yo yo, what's up? Welcome back. We got some tech interesting build. And this one, we have the vampires in their back in the format with the support from the recent set March of the Machines Aftermath. And today we're going to talk about this list by Virin, another of the user submitted deck list on MTG Goldfish. We have the colors of Mardu, that is red, white, and black. We have 32 creatures, for instance, 24 lands, and of course a sideboard discussion in a bit. Basically, we're going to this quick background because I was one of a kind of a avid fan of this archetype back in 2011, in which the Zendikar Vampires deck in Standard was one of the supported archetypes in the format at the time, and I'm happy that we are going to go with this discussion now that it is quite back now in the format, except that of course we have some variants in the builds. So we're going to start with this discussion with our creature choices. Of course, the first one drop here and the only one drop in the deck is 4 copies of Bulldard Epicure. Again, this is a very popular deck not only in this archetype but also in the Rakdos midrange and Rakdos archetype sacrifice decks in the past. And with these 4 copies, we have the 2 drops also with the 4 elves of this Bloodtide Harvester, which is more of a support card in having the benefit of a solid spot removal with more blood tokens in play, in which you can also recycle for extra draws to fix your hand. And along with it is the March of the Machine cards, Dust Legion Duelist. So this is a 2-2 cost 2-2 white vampire soldier with vigilance. So whenever one or more counters are put on Dust Legion Duelist, you will draw a card with only once per turn trigger. But with this support, in which you can sort of a synergy of this card is your Vampire Socialite, that is another 4 copies in the deck. So this one is 2-2 cost 2-2 for the black-red colors. So this triggers that whenever Vampire Socialite is on the battlefield, if an opponent has lost life this turn, you will place a counter on each of the other vampires you control. So with this one, you get to place a counter on the Legion Duelist, you will draw a card, and also have him become a 3-3 in the process. At the same time, you get to also have this effect that as long as an opponent lost life this turn, each other vampire you control that enters the battlefield with an additional percentage counter. Either way, whether it enters early on or in the late game, whenever you placed or you casted another vampire in your turn, they will get an additional percent counter on it as long as your opponent has lost life. So with the side of consistency in the 2 drops, we have next our 3 drop in the deck, that is 2 copies of Florian Buldarin Scion. So this is a 3-2 cost 3-3. This is from Midnight again. Midnight Hunt. It's a first strike in your post-combat main phase. You will look at the top extraction library where extra the total amount of life your opponents have lost. So in a way, you can have this one as sort of a semi-cardo effect, in which you will exile one of those cards that was looked on the top cards of the library, and put the rest on the bottom of the library in random order, and you make play the exiled card this turn. By manual play, it means that you can also not only casting, but in a way, if you exiled a land card, for example, you will get to play it from your exile, like playing a land on a regular basis. So there's 2 copies in the deck. Then your inclusion here also from the March of the Machines Aftermath, as I mentioned earlier, is 4 copies of Mark of Baron. So this is a 3-2 cost 2-2 Convoke Lifelink. It gets an anthem effect, other vampires you control gets Robinson, and at the same time, you have also an option to get this one at Madness cost. By discarding this card instead, you will just pay 3 or convoke to this mana cost to be able to cast it at instant speed. So that with the 4 copies, making sure that we are very consistent and having an anthem effect to our vampires. We also have this card, the new card from March of the Machines, the main set, Buldarin Thrill Seeker. It will cost 1-1 with backup 2. You can also have this one instance wherein you can sacrifice this creature. It deals damage equal to its power to the target. So either way, you can place a backup on the Thrill Seeker or on another creature you control to have this effect. So when it's placed on the counter on another creature, it gains the following ability until end of turn. So there are other options also to can basically pop out your other dudes and sacrifice that creature to deal damage to your opponent's dome or to deal damage to any relevant creatures that he or she may control. So that with the 4 copies of that, we have also our 4 drop here with the 1 copy of Angie made of Dishonor. So there's ability that whenever Angie or one of our vampires enter the battlefield, you will create a blood token. And you have also this option to sacrifice, a sacrifice effect. Pay to sacrifice an creature or blood token. Its opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So this is in a way sort of a finisher when you have a lot of blood token producers here in this deck. So these are the options here, and you can be able to basically shoot out your opponents when they lose life process by sacrificing all of those creatures and blood tokens. Another other effect in this deck, sort of another random effect in the 4 drop with Edgar Charm Groom. So this colors also the black white, but since this is very much supported in this decks, we don't really have to matter with the color fix on this build. So for the cast 4 other vampires you control gets +1. So when it dies, return it to battlefield transform. So you will also to get this one as a benefit whenever this creature dies or dies in combat or was killed in any swappable effects. It becomes an 8-cob Markov's coffin, wherein when you're upkeep, you will create a 1/1/1 white and black vampire creature token with lifelink and putting a bloodline counter on it. So if there are 3 or more bloodline counters on this artifact, remove those counters and it will then flip back to Edgar Chamgrom. So very consistent in a way. You still get a 4/4 attacker, and if it dies, you will get this token producer effect that can also churn out the threats to deal with your opponents. And I think the last one of the list here is the 4 copies, the 4 drop of these build and creatures is Henrica Domnati. This mythic card from Crimson Bow. You can have this ability where in your combat your turn, choose one that hasn't been chosen. You can have each player sacrifice creature. You may draw a card, you lose 1 life, or you may transform Henrica Domnati. So if she gets transformed, she becomes Henrica Infernal Seer. 3/4 flying that touch lifelink, and each creature you control with flying that touch and or lifelink gets +0 pump effect in this setup. So it also would depend on how you would play around this card, but the important thing is that you can get a very good utility creature in the form of the 4 drop and also a good late game card to have a threat to your opponents. And for the non-creature cards in this deck, we only have 4. That's for instance, that's 2 copies of Go for the Throat for spot removal, and 2 copies of Pile On also for the same function of destroying creatures or planeswalkers, and also a bonus of Surveil 2 in the deck. The land setup are pretty much aligned, pretty much favorable with a lot of fix here. For instance, we have some Painlands in Battlefield Forge, some Blacklib Cliffs, some Caves of Koilos again, and Haunted Ridge from Midnight Hunt for the late game fix. Unless you control 2 or more lands, so this becomes top. We have also a copy of Mountain. This is basic. Secret Courtyard, again naming Vampire as your fix for casting this creature type. Some Shattered Sanctum for the late game. Sandon Pass again, a Swamp, and of course Vulcan State. This is the version of Castle Dracula promo version, in which you can pay 1, add a mana any color to cast a vampire spell. At the same time, you get this option to create a blood token, and only activated less for each vampire you control. So the options is pretty much favored now with some of these cards from Innistrad, Midnight Hunt, and Crimson Bowl to help the vampire archetype become one of the probably deck choice of aggro in the current standard format. Now with the support cards in the sideboard, we're going to take a look. We have 4 copies of Duress, probably of course against control in mid-range decks with a lot of spells that can be discarded, and also those type the battle cards, for example, because there are non-creature, non-land. We also have additional copies of Go for the Throat for spot removals. Again, 2 copies of Unlicensed Hearse. This is for probably for mono blue or other graveyard shenanigans that you need to exile the graveyard. Low run of the 3rd path with 3 copies. Destroying artifact and enchantments, pretty much probably less relevant now because of the banning of Bankbuster and Fable the Breaker. At the same time, we should really need a utility creature in a way that is added as an option for a sideboard. And we have 4 copies of Mysterious Blood Illness or Vampire's Vengeance. This is a promo copy Deals 2 damage to each non-vampire creature, so mostly against other aggro such as mono white soldiers or mono red aggro. You would need to have this one, a sort of a sweep for a one-sided sweeper against them, so that you can also be able to kill off the early aggro effects, and while at the same time you will still get to maintain your board on that matchup. And last but not the least is a copy of Pile On again on the sideboard, just to help out another spot removal option to destroy creature and Planeswalker, and also have a bonus of Surveil 1. And last but not the least, our Mana Curve setup. We go with the average mana value of 2.61, that is between 2 and 3. As you've really seen here, we have a lot of 2 drops, and for the 3 drops we have at least 10. But at the same time, we could see here that more of the relevant creatures that are considered stayed up, for instance, Mark of Baron can be convoked to that of a lesser value, so we can cast it out earlier at not really going with the hard cast of 3 mana. So for the color distribution, we have black for 26, red is 19, and 7 for white. And my producer setup is pretty much even. We have 19 for red, 20 for black, and 15 for white. But with this help of these cards like Voldaren Estate and 4 copies of Secluded Courtyard, we make sure that the mana fix would not really affect us much in curving out well with our aggro lineup. And for this one, our tokens are just basically Blood token and the Vampire Lifelink token. This is produced by this one by the Dracula Wager, or that of Edgar Markov or Edgar Charm Group. So I think that's basically it. That's a wrap for featuring this deck, Mardu Vampires for the March of the Machine standard format. If you faced a similar list for this, or are piloting this one at the moment for your daily grinds in MTG or MTG Arena, just let me know in the comments below what your take on this build, what you have observed, or maybe some slight changes that we need to go with our instant or for our creature lineup. Just let me know in the comments below. We can have a good discussion on this one. So I guess that's about it, guys. Thank you for checking this March of the Machines again, a format standard deck tech video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, notifications bell for more of this copy, and for upcoming deck techs again that can have the upcoming sets and other Magic the Gathering related discussions. Thank you guys again for watching, and see you on the next one.